I'm Theo Campbell, and I oversee the carnivore section here at the zoo.
And I'm Seth Groesbeck, oversee the elephant section at the zoo.
Hello, I'm John Rossi. I'm a touring drummer with a passion for animal conservation. When I'm on the road, I spend as much time as possible visiting zoos, aquariums, and conservation organizations. Now, I want to share those places with you. I'll be talking to keepers, vets, conservationists, anyone who can help me in my mission of connecting my people to animals through their people. Join me on my Rossifari.
Hello, how are you? Welcome back to the Rossifari podcast. All right, y'all. So this one's a fun one. We got a new facility on the podcast for y'all, and seemed like a really good opportunity to release it right here. As today is the Tuesday of the AZA conference in Tampa, and I am at the conference doing conference-y things. And it's like, I feel like every time I go to the conference, I make a ton of new connections and start talking to some new facilities and all that jazz. And so it seemed like the right time to bring y'all a brand new facility onto this podcast. And so we are talking today to two of the people, Seth and Theo, who work at the zoo in Syracuse. Now you might notice I didn't say the Syracuse Zoo, and that's because it's not called that. It's called the Rosamond Gifford Zoo. And I have long loved this facility, and I'm so excited to bring this to you. And in particular, we're talking about elephants and we're talking about wolves in this episode. And, if you don't realize it or recognize the name, the Rosamond Gifford Zoo has Ele-twins, which is really uncommon. So you're going to hear a lot about that, as well as a lot of really cool red wolf conservation stuff, which is obviously something that is near and dear to my heart. So before we get to that, a couple of quick reminders. Make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss any of these Tuesday interview episodes or any of the Friday Zoo News episodes. Make sure you're following along on the socials at Rossifari, on TikTok at Rossifari Pod. And, if you'd like to support the podcast, you can do so for as little as $3 a month by going to patreon.com/Rossifari. So with all of that said, I think it's time to get into it. I will say this interview took place in two parts. The first part was actually done. So the wolves and elephants are right next to each other. So we started out in the park, and you're going to hear construction noise and an ambulance in the background. And it was not, at the zoo. But I will tell you, I did cut out all of the guests just interrupting the interview to ask questions, which happened more than a couple of times. In the 12 minutes that we were out there. And then after that part, we went into a conference room to finish the interview. So if you hear the audio shift, that is why. So with all of that said, let's get to my interview with Seth and Theo from the Rosamond Gifford Zoo. Enjoy, y'all.
All right. And we are at the Rosamond Gifford Zoo in Syracuse. So exciting times. And we're here today to talk about two different species in particular, Asian elephants and red wolves, which just happen to be right next to each other, which is really convenient for where we're standing right now. Yeah. So let's start off by walking over towards red wolf a little bit here. And right off the bat, we need to start talking about the excitement that's going on with the red wolves right now. So what's going on?
So we actually were lucky enough to have 5 pups here at the zoo. And this is the first time we've had a successful litter. So we're really excited. These are 2 first-time parents, Sage and Evie. They are 5 years old each. Evie we got a couple years ago, and Sage is relatively new. We only got him this past winter. But all the pups are doing well, and they're just about 5 weeks old now.
That's fantastic. Very cool. And are they starting to come out? Are they starting to explore?
Yeah. So they actually are just starting to explore probably about a week ago.
Okay.
So about 4 weeks on average is usually when red wolves will start to explore out of the den. But they are really starting to come out, and they'll just kind of hang out near the outskirts of the den and maybe start to explore the boundaries a little further.
Okay. Yep. That's very cool. And, for people that are listening who don't know, we talk about red wolves a lot on here, but for people that don't know, can you talk a little bit about their conservation status and why this is so important?
Yeah, so red wolves are actually critically endangered. They're the most endangered canine species in the world. There's only 19 recorded in the wild, and that's in the Alligator River National Wildlife Refuge down in North Carolina. So they are all red wolves that are in captivity and in the wild. They're owned by U.S. Fish and Wildlife. So they're federally owned species. And we work with them, AZA accredited zoos, to actually to help the population grow, and we help with the wild reintroductions that U.S. Fish and Wildlife conducts down there. So we treat them very wild on purpose. So that's if they ever do get selected for release, adult or pup, we can more easily integrate them into that scenario, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, totally.
So exciting to have some pups here and be a part of that.
So, so the reintroduction, I feel like of all the conservation things that I see, is one of the more, I will say, challenging things, because it seems like the tide keeps shifting and flowing. And I don't fully understand why people seem to have the issues with red wolves that they do. But can you talk about that a little bit, about what that experience is like?
Yeah, so the three big issues right now that affect red wolves are habitat loss, hybridization with coyotes, and then also just conflicts with landowners and like farmers that are in that sort of area or in their previous native range. So, and that was a big reason why previous reintroduction efforts. So they actually had a lot of success up until the mid 2000s, at which point there was a lot of like political strife and like issues with the landowners. So there was a lot of like lobbying to like have them taken off the endangered species list and all that stuff, because it would have impact the agricultural sector in that area.
Gotcha.
So that's a big reason why reintroductions kind of had success and then kind of failed again. So we're currently trying to rebound from that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally. Absolutely does. And it's hard to see. I think it makes me sad.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. Talk to me about this exhibit a little bit while we're out here, because then we can talk more in the conference room about like you. But this is such a beautiful setup. And why is this, how does this help, with the reintroduction possibilities, or just with the species showing natural behaviors?
Yeah, so this is a nice, like, just wooded exhibit that's kind of recessed. So the wolves kind of can go hide and feel like they are away from the public and things like that. We also have, if you can see right, I guess no one will be able to see it, but there is a den for everyone listening. It's actually an old septic tank. And then we fill it in with some like gravel and stuff like that. And we have some about 8 to 10 foot corrugated pipes that come out on either side. So the red wolves can go and hide in there, and it's like a little comfort zone for them to get away from people. But also, as you can see, there's a lot of like natural vegetation built into this exhibit. So at any given point, they can feel like they can hide back there, and they don't feel as seen to the public. So it just kind of helps encourage that quiet lifestyle that the red wolf likes to live, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And I just find it so fascinating, the idea that, trying to treat them in a very natural way, trying to make sure that everything's very calm and natural. And then they're next to elephants.
Yeah.
So do they ever seem to notice them? Or, I know that like, since they've not lived in the wild, they don't know that elephants wouldn't be next door to them.
They do.
But
notice them.
Yeah, what's their interaction like? I'm curious.
Honestly, the babies mess with them the most.
Okay.
So the two twins, on occasion, when we do have to go in and we do make sure they have food, water, all those things, and check fences, those kind of things. So we will go in there and do those things. When we do that, sometimes the red wolves will move around a bit, and the twins have kind of interacted with them when they're doing that, and they usually come over, they come to the fence, they will make some noise, and usually the red wolves honestly are just like, whoa, get away from me. Like, what is that? But yeah,
That's fair.
so they definitely have seen each other, and usually the red wolves they're a little terrified of them. Understandably so. They're very large animals.
Yeah. Those are not something they would normally see, and it makes sense. Yeah, no, very cool. And then that is such a great transition right to the other big topic, which is elephants, and in particular the Ele-twins. So go ahead and talk to us about who we're looking at right now.
Yeah, so right now over on this side of the yard, we have Molly and Yad and Takata, our two elephant twins. Molly was born right here at the Roseman Gifford Zoo, and she gave birth to our two twins almost 3 years ago now in October. Elephant twins are less than 1% of elephant births in the world. So
That's
they're incredibly
crazy.
rare.
Okay.
And these are the only surviving twins outside of the range countries, which is another amazing thing for us.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was an amazing experience. We weren't expecting twins. So it was a very big surprise when it actually happened. We were waiting for Molly to pass her placenta, and all of a sudden there was a second calf on the ground. We were lucky that we were all still here, and all our vet team were still here to kind of get the second little guy's vitals going again. And it took us about an hour to get all his vitals back.
Oh, wow.
So it was quite the feat, and but he's doing really, really well now.
So why are twins so rare?
Elephants, they're 1% of births in general, but elephants have a really long reproductive tract. So often when they have twins, that twin that's in their second doesn't necessarily make it out in time by the time the umbilical cord severs. So that's one reason that a lot of times we don't see twins born successfully. There have been some twin miscarriages again, too. From some of the females, but again, less than 1% is pretty rare to begin with. So
right now, I know that you said that you didn't know there were twins. Are you able to do any kind of pregnancy monitoring? Because they're pregnant for a long time, right?
Yeah, anywhere from 20 to 24 months. So it's a really long gestation, and we do monitor them all the way through the pregnancy. But unfortunately, a lot of our technology is not designed to look at an elephant. So the technology we have, the largest thing they're really designed for are horses. So again, when we ultrasound these guys, we'll end up seeing like sections of ribs or a foot, but you never can see the entire animal. So, when you're looking at it, you just see in a rib and like, oh, yep, there's a baby in there. And you can't understand that it's a separate baby from the one that you looked at before.
Right. That's actually really, I just, in my goofy mind, I have this, image of a mom putting up the ultrasound on the refrigerator.
Yep.
Only it's just a foot or a river.
Yep.
That is such great imagery.
Yep.
I like that.
And that's what we have. We're like, look, there's a baby.
That's really fascinating. Very cool. So let's talk about the habitat a little bit, because I feel like a trend that I've noticed in AZA facilities is definitely a commitment to elephants. And I know I've been at the annual conference the last 2 years, and that commitment is strong. Yeah. Like they have reaffirmed it in all of the main room speeches and stuff. But a lot of facilities, it seems they're going one of two ways. They're either getting rid of their 2 or 3 elephant herds that live in a relatively small parcel of land, or they're really committing to larger herds, lots of room, trying to give elephants a little bit more what they need. So maybe the population will be roughly the same, but it'll be less facilities, but with a lot more room. So what kind of room do you guys have here?
So here at the zoo right now, we're very lucky. Our zoo is very committed to elephants and has been since the zoo opened. We have about 7 acres of elephant space right now, and always continuing to looking to expand that space as well. But it's a great space we have 8 elephants here at the zoo, a fairly large group of elephants, a great space for these guys. So it's a great landscape. We have hills, we have pools, we have lots of stuff for them to roam around. And really have that opportunity to get away from each other out here, too, since it's such a big yard.
Yeah, definitely.
If they choose so.
Very cool. Why don't we wander through more of the habitat area here and kind of talk through some more of what we see. So one of the things that immediately stands out to me here is that there's so much grass.
Yeah.
And so many of the elephant habitats that I've been to, even the ones that have grass, they don't keep the grass because elephants. So how the heck do you keep so much grass here?
I'm very particular about grass
okay.
as a manager of the section, but we're really lucky. Our elephants, we do have spots that the grass has come out, but we often replant the grass on a regular basis. But I also think it's the sheer size of the space because they have areas to get away and not necessarily stand on the same sections every time.
Right.
It allows us to do that. But again, we're very fervent about replanting our yards and making sure that the grass comes back on a regular basis.
That's really cool. Yeah. I like that. Yeah, it seems important, and it's such a beautiful area. How deep does the water go?
So we actually have, it's really 2 pools in one. So the section of the pool that's closest to us is 3 feet deep.
Okay.
And then the section that's closest to the waterfall goes up to about 7 feet deep.
Wow.
Yep. So it's a system designed that when we have little calves, we can lower one pool, keep one pool shallow until they get used to the deep section of the water as well.
Nice. Very cool. And talk me through some of the enrichment that's in here. I know people can't see it, but we can kind of talk through it a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So lots of different enrichment. Elephants, of course, are very active and need lots of things to keep their time busy. and that mental health going. So we have different scratching posts that resemble fallen trees. We actually have fallen trees in the exhibit. The columns that you see with the 3 telephone poles together actually are weebles and wobble.
Oh,
so
nice.
the elephant can go up and push on them and they'll bounce back and forth. And that again stimulates that natural behavior of elephants pushing on each other or pushing on trees. So they get that stimulation as well.
Nice.
Lots of opportunities to have hanging things under our shade structures. Lots of toys as well.
Very cool. How do you make a telephone weeble?
Yeah, so those 3 poles are tied together, and then in the ground there's 6 large tractor tires.
That's amazing.
That allow it to bounce back and forth.
Oh, that's so cool.
Granted, we can't move it at all, but they can definitely push on it.
That's awesome. Very cool. Is there anything else that you wanted to say about the habitat here while we're out here?
Yeah, one neat thing that this is it's designed to be a big circle for us. So what we just walked over is actually a tunnel that goes underneath the public walkway. The elephants can go underneath to get up to our upper yards here. And then on the other side of the yard, closest to our building, there's actually a walkway that goes across a public path too, which connects to the back side of our building. So it gives us lots of opportunities to move elephants in different directions, and really gives us a great use of the space to shift animals and create different groups if needed.
Very cool. All right. So I would love to hear your stories about what got you both to where you currently are. So whoever wants to start can go ahead. But
do I go first? Yeah, you go first. So I actually started here as a 4-H club member when I was 12 years old. So the 4-H club used to run out of our domestic animal barn. So I got all those great experiences. And then I was hired to do pony rides during the summer when I was 13. So back when we did pony rides here, I did those for a few years. And then I was lucky enough to be allowed to start in the elephant program when I was 16. So during school, on the weekends, and then all the way through high school, I worked in the elephant department, as back then it was called the elephant groom. So just cleaning up and just being around the animals. And then I ended up going to school to be a teacher, but still worked at this place while I was in college and never got away from it. And when I was almost done school, I was offered a job here and I immediately took it. Never thought it was something that I'd end up doing long term. We don't make much. You got to have a passion for what you love or for what you do. But ended up loving it and just never getting away from it. And then I worked in the elephant department for many years before I was hired to oversee the carnivore and hoodstock section. And then I also helped out in elephants still during that time. And then in the last few years, I ended up going back to elephants full time and overseeing that elephant section.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty long time here.
Yeah,
and trained lots of people.
Yeah, Seth used to be my manager. So.
Okay, that's really cool.
Yep.
So yeah, tell me your story.
So I started here back in college. I did a couple internships here, and then I went on to work in the elephant department as well. I helped out as a part-time keeper or seasonal keeper, and did that for a couple seasons, and then I actually went over to the hoofstock and carnivore section in that same capacity, and then I got hired on as a full-time keeper in that area, and I worked that area for about 5 years before I came on as manager. And then I've been managing the carnivore and hoofstock section for the last couple of years, but more recently, I'm just overseeing carnivores at the moment.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So what, can you give a rundown of just like a couple of the species for people that haven't been here that are under your care as a carnivore manager?
Yeah, so we have Amur leopards, Amur tigers, red pandas, red wolves, gray wolves, Andean bear, and then North American river otter and snow leopards.
Nice, very cool. Yeah. And so I don't know if you know this, but red pandas are kind of my thing. I'm one of the leaders of the Safe Red Panda program, and obviously have my little sticker and all the things. So I have to ask, even though we're not here to talk panda today, but who do we have here right now?
We have Spring and K2.
Okay. And do you know where they're from originally?
Spring came from Sunset Zoo, correct? Yeah. And then K2 is actually an animal that we currently own, but he came from New Zealand. So he's a founder animal.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Does he have an accent?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, no, he's a great animal, but he's getting up there in age. He's 14 now. So,
Okay.
Yeah, but he's been doing really well here.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
he's got a lot of offspring. Yeah, it's a lot of offspring for the population.
That's really cool. And y'all do something that I am really passionate about here, which is it is not just a red panda habitat, but it is a mixed species habitat. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so we actually have a mixed species with Chinese muntjac or Reeves muntjac, and they're found in the same area or habitat as red pandas. So it's a really neat exhibit because they're the ground dwellers that are kind of there, and the red pandas are up in the trees. We have that exhibit designed to be kind of vertical. So there's that ground space, but then there's also that space for the pandas, and they both have entrances at each of those levels. So it's kind of neat for people to see that.
Yeah, I always love seeing that.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, do the pandas interact at all with the muntjacs?
Yeah, they do. Yeah. So like pandas they're not always up in the trees. They do go down to the ground, and they will graze occasionally on grass and random items like that. And they will interact with the muntjac during those periods sometimes. But it's usually completely harmless and silly.
Oh, yeah, of course. You just described red pandas.
Yeah. It's usually, it's very uneventful, but they do interact for sure.
Nice. Very fun. So I'm actually curious, one thing that stood out to me as you guys were sharing your stories is that you've both been in each other's department and you've trained him up, and it seems like there's a lot of movement and trading around and stuff. So does that help create a synergy? Does it bond your team at all? Like, some zoos, I feel like each team is their own thing, and that's fine, it works. But I'm not getting that vibe here. So can you guys talk to that at all?
Yeah,
go ahead.
You know me, I'll kick off. But I think that's one aspect that has always attracted me to this facility. So, I mean, we're not small, we're like a medium-sized zoo. But I know everybody at this zoo, and I see everybody basically every day. And I think that's a great thing that we have here. There's so many zoos that you go to, even some of the smaller zoos, where the elephant people only see the elephant people and interact with the elephant people. But our departments, especially carnivores, livestock, and elephants, really work really closely together. And we require all our keepers really to be cross-trained across these sections. So elephant keepers are trained in livestock to help out with procedures, whether it's training or other things, and vice versa. Theo is a carnivore keeper that also works part-time in elephants. And I think that for the cohesion of the zoo and for the long-term success of all these programs, that's really important.
Yeah, no, I agree. And as Seth was saying, because there's so much cross training and stuff like that, like there's just a lot of opportunity. You know what I mean? Like so in some of these bigger zoos, a keeper might never get to go see a tiger thing. You know what I mean? But at our zoo, because we really do integrate the staff into a lot of departments, they get these opportunities that we probably would never get at another zoo. So I do really appreciate that, and it's nice.
Yeah, that's really cool. One of the things that when I started doing this podcast, really surprised me and has become a recurring theme is I will tell, because I become friends with a lot of the people that I interview and stuff. And especially some of my early interviews, we've been friends for 5 years now, and I'll be talking to them and they'll be like, oh, where are you at? What are you interviewing? I'm like, oh yeah. And I went and I met, a red panda and a tapir and a binturong today, whatever. And they're like, I have never met any of those animals. I've never even seen a binturong, whatever. And it's like, but you work at a zoo with red pandas. And they're like, yeah, but I don't know the keepers. I've never gone back and gotten to hang out with one. And I'm like, oh, I've met 54 at this point. And it's like, it's such a weird thing to me. But then, like you said, at other zoos, I see that where it's just like, oh yeah, it's one team. And I think that is probably healthier. I mean, that's my impression, Yeah, that's really cool. I love that. And that says a lot about the culture here.
But I think you appreciate other areas more too. Like I said before, I was elephant focused, and being given that opportunity to oversee another area really escalated my appreciation for livestock. And now I've become a diehard livestock person too. So I think that those are really important things. Like I'm the SSP coordinator for Marcor. So developing those passions for those other species are really important. And as Theo worked in elephants, he has a healthy appreciation for what we do in elephants, and vice versa. So I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like that a lot. That's really cool. So let's talk about some of the individual animals. Let's start off by talking about elephants, since you like going first. So obviously the Ele-twins are famous now, and we talked a little bit about how special that is. But can you tell me just a little bit, names, personalities, who mom is, all that stuff?
Yeah, no problem. So I'll really start out with our primary animal here at the zoo, actually, in general, and everyone knows that. Like Siri, who's our oldest female here at the zoo. Siri is the original Asian elephant that came here in 1972, back when, the old style zoo was a thing. And Siri is really the reason the zoo is the way it is today. In the early 80s, the city was looking at shutting down this zoo, and people really put up a fuss that Siri was going to be leaving as well. So it developed a whole campaign around building a new zoo for Siri. So our expansion into our new facility is really focused around that animal. And Siri is 58 now, so she's definitely getting up there in age.
Wow.
And doing well. She still does some demos and things like that, but she also spends a lot of time just relaxing behind the scenes. She likes to hang out with the animal staff a lot. But this community in general, like if you go around the city, everyone knows who Siri the elephant is.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm really passionate about older Asian elephants in particular. So that's really cool. So, yeah.
And her being so geriatric, so much care goes into her, whether it's stretch training every day, multiple times a day, all the yoga that she does just to keep her as healthy as we possibly can through all of
Elephant yoga.
But we have 8 elephants here overall. We have 3 males, 1 adult bull, and then the 2 twins. And then we have the 5 females. So Siri came here in 1972. Ramani came here in 1984. Ramani was originally born at the Pinwala Elephant Orphanage in Sri Lanka.
Oh, wow.
And came here to the U.S. From there. Targa, who's our next oldest female, she came from what's now Busch Gardens in Tampa, Florida. She came here and was born at Busch Gardens in Tampa, Florida. And then Ramani and Targa both had daughters while they're here. Ramani had Karina, who is still here at the zoo. And then Targa had Molly, who is still here at the zoo, who is mother of the twins.
Right.
So
wow. That's really cool.
Family.
That's awesome.
And Ramani has a son, too, who's over actually in England. He was at Whipsnade for many years, but now he's at Blackpool, who has lots and lots of children. And he was actually involved in the first international AI. So that was a pretty amazing thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Sounds like a very special herd.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. So speaking of the elephant, and before we move on to wolf personalities, you have this great habitat now, and it's all quite lovely, and we were out there looking at it. But now we're in this conference room, and I'm seeing these pretty pictures, and it looks like y'all have an expansion coming. So can you talk about that a little bit? Because that's special.
Our goal here is to continue to improve our space, of course, for all the animals here at the zoo. But a goal of ours is also to increase some more indoor space for our elephants, our growing group of elephants. So we do have some plans drawn up for an exhibit expansion. Hopefully that comes to fruition over the next few years. Of course, money is always the greatest thing involved with that. But again, the zoo has committed to elephants, as we're talking about the AZA policies now. And we have committed to elephants. We have committed to being a breeding program for elephants. So that being said, we need to have the space to be able to do that. We have great outdoor space, but we want to increase our indoor space as well.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. And looking at the architectural picture-y things, technical term, it looks really fantastic. Lot of cool indoor space, lots of
natural light.
Yeah, I really like it. It looks really beautiful.
Great space.
Yeah, very, very cool. Speaking of elephants, the whole reason that I wanted to start my relationship with the zoo, specifically talking about elephants, was because we have already met and we hung out with Mike McClure up in Rochester.
Yep.
And so can you talk about that experience at all and what your team got from that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great to get team members out to other facilities in general. Whether you see things you like or don't like, there's always great learning experiences, especially seeing how other people do things. So we pride ourselves on getting out to other facilities. The elephant community, I'm sure as you're aware, is a very tight-knit community. So we know a lot of people from all the different facilities. So I think it was a great experience for the staff to get to see someone like Mike, who a lot of them haven't met, and see his expertise on foot care. And again, I think there's so much you can learn from other facilities and other people that you can take that information back and help out your own animals. So the more that we can do that, whether it's going to conferences, classes, AZA school, or anything like that, is really important. I think in general, we should be less isolationist and more open to what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And what kind of foot care do y'all do?
So we do really similar to what Mike does. Now, the process of foot care has changed over the last 10 to 15 years. So it's less invasive compared to what they used to do. So it's moving away more from what we saw in the past, like how horses were done, and more moving to what it should be for elephants.
Yeah.
But foot care is a really important thing for elephants. So their feet are checked every day during their bath sessions.
That's very cool. And we have gone completely off the rails because I was getting personalities, but I like talking elephants. Sorry about that, everybody. But so tell me about the wolves.
Yeah, so Sage and Evie, as I said, are 5 years old, and we got Evie from Point Defiance Zoo a couple years ago. And Sage is actually kind of a neat story. So we got him most recently. He just got here in January. He came from the North Carolina Zoo, and they have a breeding facility that's off property. Now it's on their property, but it's not like in the zoo property, if that makes sense. So it's very like hands off. They're not really habituated to people. And they actually do sometimes use those animals for release into the wild because it's really close to where they actually do the release of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. So Sage was actually a wild animal at one point. He was released when he was, I think, around a year old or close to it. But then unfortunately, they actually tracked him leaving the refuge and going into territory for like farmers and stuff like that. So they did, and he left his pair bonded mate. So they deemed him to be not suitable for the wild. So they actually ended up having to pull him and bring him back into the captive breeding population. And so that's how we ended up on him.
Interesting.
I think you should talk about how you got him, because that's a neat story.
Yeah, so we used for both Evie and Sage, we used Light Hawk to conduct the animal transport. So it's just like it's a third party organization that kind of helps with conducting these animal transports specifically for endangered species like red wolves, gray wolves, Mexican wolves. Like they kind of help. That's kind of how they corner their conservation credit, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So they have volunteer pilots donate these flights to help with these animal transports to save costs for zoos. So that is how so I actually had to go down with the pilot to North Carolina Zoo in a single engine 4-seat plane. It was Cessna. So it was a pretty wild ride, and it was very cold right off the bat. But so it was in the middle of January, so it was 15 degrees where we were in New Jersey. And yeah, and it was a bumpy ride. I guess I will say that. But
no flight attendants, no bags of pretzels.
No. Yeah.
Well, we were all joking with him because it was like this amazing experience. So when our first wolf came, it was again on a person's private jet, but it was like a 10-seater, like beautiful interior jet. So we're like, oh man, you're gonna have a great experience being on this plane. And it ended up being a smaller plane.
I go down there expecting to get on this like luxury plane. He wheels out by a rope like a little Cessna. Oh, this is going to be something.
That's incredible.
That's so amazing.
Yeah, no, it's still an incredible experience. I recommend anyone, if they have the opportunity to do it, you should do it. But yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. I like that a lot. Do we know much about the littles and their personalities yet? I mean, I know it's only been a couple months.
Not a whole lot because they just started coming out. I will say the boy is definitely seems like the most rambunctious.
Shocker.
Just during the first couple catch-ups, just to do medical checks and things like that, get first weights and make sure everyone's healthy and stuff. He was probably the most feisty out of the 5 of them. So he definitely, I would say he's going to be a little more of a spitfire maybe, but we'll see what happens as they grow and develop into their personalities. So
yeah, no, that's really cool. What kind of work are you guys doing as far as like the conservation of the species, other than just, having them?
Yeah, so I mean, we kind of just try to educate the public as best we can about what's going on with them, and just we are part of the SAFE program for them, and other than that, that's really pretty much all we do. And just,
I mean, you say that's all you do. That's a lot. Come on, that's what I'm talking about.
But yeah, so that's essentially it. It's just trying to keep the public as educated as we can for them, and then just trying to aid U.S. Fish and Wildlife should they need the animals that we have here.
Right. Very cool.
Yeah, and just trying to continue breeding. So,
do you find, and I don't know how much you directly talk to the public since you're all high and mighty managerial now, but do you find that the public, when they do learn about the plight of the red wolf, and in particular the number, is that something people in general are aware of, or are they shocked by that, or?
Yeah, I would say that people really do when you actually get that opportunity to really engage with someone, because it is a bit of a wordy conversation sometimes. But when you do tell them about what's going on with them and how they actually are getting introduced in the wild currently, people usually get really excited, and they usually will actually listen to you, which is nice. Sometimes you don't always get that. You get the cold shoulder. They keep walking, but I do think it's a really neat story, and usually it's kind of captivating when you tell people there's only 19, and usually when you're standing in front of the exhibit, there's literally just 19 people around you. So to give people an idea of like, you can say that, you're like, yeah, there's actually less of them people standing right here. So it's a good thing to, I don't know, catch people's attention, I guess. But
Yeah, that's really cool. Very good. And then as far as elephant conservation, what's your involvement with that?
Yeah, so here with elephants, again, we're very involved with elephants in general. So the zoo was a founding member of Elephant Managers Association, so we're still very heavily involved with that. Our former director sat on the board of International Elephant Foundation, so we're still very heavily involved with them. I'm a member of AZA Safe Committee, so I assist with that. But, I think Theo brought a good example of the 19. One thing we always stress to people is you're building these personal relationships with the animal and taking that home and the importance of what zoos do. I think a lot of people still under the impression that we're here for entertainment and yes, it is entertainment, but it's also for an educational purpose. And zoos aren't what they used to be. There's so much science in zoos and what we do to help conserve these animals in the wild. And red wolves are a perfect example of that, creating a captive population so we can, again, help build the wild population for these animals. With elephants, we always say during our demonstration, there's 30,000 elephants, there's 50,000 seats in the SU carrier dome here. So, or JM, where the stone, whatever it is now. But it's giving those real life examples of how many animals are left, I think is really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually something we struggle with Safe Red Panda because we don't have great population studies, and the estimate that like Red Panda Network and stuff uses is somewhere between like 3 and 10,000. And that's a huge difference. Yeah. And some countries haven't done any range studies at all. We're working to get Bhutan to do their first ever. But like, we don't know. There could be 30 million red pandas in Bhutan. Spoiler alert, there aren't. Yeah. But like, we genuinely have no idea at all what the numbers are. And it's crazy to me as I've been getting into this world over the last 5 years to have like learned how much we don't know about animals that we also, know so much about, and yeah, it's really fascinating to me.
But I think like we were talking earlier with elephants, coming here when I was a kid and seeing these animals up close is the reason I developed a passion for these animals and want to protect the ones that are left in the wild. I think it's so important to build those personal relationships. I was never going to have the opportunity to go to Asia when I was a kid and see elephants in real life. So to have them here as ambassadors for those ones in the wild, I think is so important.
Absolutely. I think, I've taken a very unique path to what I do with Rossifari and my conservation work and everything, but it stems from, and I've said this on here before, but I had some, animal interactions early on, including riding an elephant in a public park in the town I grew up in. That is not okay in any way. But even as a little kid, it was amazing to me. And I fell in love with animals through that experience. And providing those experiences in a way that is correct for the animals as well is so wildly important. And, people often ask me, I've been doing this I'm coming up on my 5th anniversary of the podcast, and I don't take time off. I do 2 episodes a week. It's crazy. And people always are like, how do you do that? But the thing is, I come and I meet really fired up people and I get really close to really cool animals. And every time I do, it just makes me want to do it more. Like, I've never left a facility after doing an interview or after meeting an animal or whatever, and not been more fired up. And I get to do it a lot. So I'm just really fired up. And it's launched me into all of these other side things, whether it's Safe Red Panda, or I also volunteer for Safe Tree Kangaroo. I volunteer at Aquarium of Niagara. Like, anything I can do to make a difference. We've raised thousands of dollars for conservation. And it all stems from those meaningful interactions with animals. Some of which are like hands-on, and some of which are just like watching the twins throwing grass on their head today. And that was just really cute. It's not inspirational in a traditional way, but it makes me love those guys more. And I want to I want to see them more. I want to connect with them. And then because of that through, to elephants in general. So yeah, I do think that is really important. I've often said that Rossifari wouldn't have existed, 15, 20 years ago, maybe even earlier than that, as zoos have evolved. But now they're to a point where I am very proud to share all of this incredible stuff. And having seen the ridiculous amount of science and work and passion and knowledge and all of it that goes into it, obviously this stuff's incredible. And the work you guys are doing is incredible. It was amazing meeting your team at another zoo and just watching everybody learn and work on feet and just like encourage each other. And, you know, it was all for animals. It wasn't like it was a fun activity in and of itself, but for the animals, it was amazing. You know? Yeah. Is there anything that either of you would like to say about your sections, your animal, your team, the zoo, anything else?
I just want to shout out to my team, growing and doing a great job. And I just look forward to continue doing good work with them.
Oh, nice. I love that. And so it's a carnivore team, you said, right?
Carnivore
so
team.
are you allowed to have vegetarians on a carnivore team?
No.
I just like really dumb jokes every once in a while. Sorry. How about you, Seth? You got anything?
Yeah, no, I'm really lucky how dedicated our elephant team is here. The elephant team are probably the most senior of the staff here at the zoo. So we have a great camaraderie in the program, and they're incredibly dedicated people. And I appreciate what they do every day.
Nice. When you said the elephant team here is probably the most, I was like, are you about to throw every other team under? Are you going to the most impressive team at the zoo? No. The truth comes out.
I would not do that.
Suddenly Theo and Seth are fighting. No, very cool. All right. Is there a conservation organization that you'd each like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, definitely for me, it's the International Elephant Foundation and AZA Safe. Those are two big programs that we always support. So great organizations.
Yeah, probably Red Wolf Coalition, and then, Red Wolf Safe. So,
nice. Very cool. And then it is time.
It's time now, don't you know? We've come to the end of the show. But there's one tale left to go. You're gonna laugh and say, oh no. It's time for the Rossifari poop story.
Okay. Well, once I got marked by a tiger. So I will say that happened. I don't know if you know what that looks like, but you're walking down the keeper alleyway there, and then the cat was all excited, and she turned around, and sure enough, it was right on me. So, because it shoots out.
Oh man,
fast.
That's fantastic.
So then I was covered in cat pee for the rest of the day.
Nice. Perfect. I'm sure that smelled awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Luxuries of the job.
Yeah, for me, probably the one word of advice I can give is to keep your mouth closed when you're giving an elephant an enema. That's a really important one.
Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And with that, thank you both for doing this. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, of course.
All right, so there you have it, folks. Rosamond Gifford Zoo is officially welcomed to the Rossifari family. And I'm so excited about that. There are so many other incredible stories at that zoo, and I can't wait to get back and share more of them with you. Before I get going, I do want to take a moment to say thank you to my patrons, especially my Red Panda level patrons, Dr. Laura Schenk, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, Jenny Owens, Melissa Reed, Carrie Kirkpatrick, John Lewis, who is also here for stickers, Kevin Williams, and Cormac McMuffin. Meow. And I'll be back in your feed on Friday. Haven't quite decided yet if that's going to be my recap of the conference episode or if I'm going to do that on Tuesday and do a normal zoo news. But the only way for you to find out will be by tuning in on Friday. So I will see you there. I will see you then. And until then, remember, friends, the word credits backwards is Stider.
The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo.